Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where in the world you are joining me from. I am Illuminati, and this is the Crypto and Cognac podcast show, as always, live every Thursday, 7 p.m. sharp Atlantic Standard Time, right here, YouTube. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Know what I mean? And if I'm here, if I'm here, if I'm here, any day, yeah, right? I think the bottle is almost done, so we're gonna finish it off. The Hennessy Pure White, guys. Today I've gained an even greater appreciation for Hennessy Pure White. So if you've not had it before, try Hennessy Pure White with coconut water. Stephen, maybe I had something going for you all along. But I'm late. I'm late on the bandwagon, I admit. But Hennessy Pure White on the beach with some coconut water. Yeah, your life might change. Your life might change, right? Guys, thank you for being with me as always. Before we jump into it, of course, Stephen, pull out the broom. I go pull out my rag. Let me do some housekeeping, right? Despite anything that you may perceive here tonight, this is not a financial advisory podcast. I am not a financial advisor. Nothing that I share here tonight, last night, the nights to come should be misconstrued as financial advice. As always, the same way we have our Hennessy, it's the same way we have our crypto conversation. It's always about the ICE rule. Information, conversation, education, sometimes a little bit of entertainment, but never financial advice. Do your own research, ladies and gentlemen, right? Big up all your whole self, everybody on the chat. Stevie is here with me as per usual. Guys, this is episode 16 of season 6 of the podcast. We are halfway through season 6, and I thought it was necessary that we do a little recap for those of you who joined late, for those of you who this is the first episode you're seeing for the season. And as always, midway through, we just want to check in. We want to see what's been happening, right? So we're going to run down what has been happening in this market, what has been happening over the last season. I'm going to tap in and we're going to go through one by one. It feels to me at least, that we are also midway through the bull market, right? Take that as you may, right? Again, not financial advice, but for me, it feels like we're halfway there. We went through the periods of concern, and I think we head in to that part where things start building up, right? And before we get on the other side, which is gonna go really, really quickly, if you've ever been a participant in a bull cycle before, it blows quickly and then it's gone, right? So before that happens, we just want to tap back in and touch on all the things that we've gone through for this season. This season started on January 16th, and crazily enough, right? The price of Bitcoin on January 16th was just around right where we are at this moment in time, right? We were at, I don't want to tell a lie. So I'm going to go. We were at, on January 16th, we were at 96. Oh gosh, why are we not going to January 16th? All right, January 16, 2025, we were getting ready to head to 100,000 again, right? By the time we got, well, we posted on January 14th. By the time we got to the episode on January 16th, we were over the 100,000, right? So it feels like we are heading right back to where we started, right? But along the way, of course, we had a lot of things happening. Donald J. Trump, obviously, still the president of the United States of America, but his impact on the crypto space at the start of this season was undeniable. The Trump verse was pumping. He was launching his own tokens. His family members were launching their own tokens, and it was helping the whole place catch fire. Right after that, we went on to talk about DeepSeek, which is the Chinese-built AI chatbot, was taking over. Um, Things have significantly slowed with them, as I guess challenges have arisen between the US and China. But DeepSeek was, the game changer because of the cost, because of what it was able to do in comparison to some of the bigger AI models like ChatGPT, and with its very limited resource base. So that was the next step. Then by February, the market had plunged. People started wondering, is it over? Is the bull run over? Was it all just a flash in the pan? And people started panicking. We talked about that. Um, and then we started seeing a little bit of a recovery, but not in the traditional way. Usually we see Bitcoin lead the way, we see Ethereum follow. But in this particular instance, we saw BNB, Binance Smart Chain, really being the dominant altcoin to Bitcoin in terms of the major alts that was really leading this particular rally. So and I mean, even to this point in the market, Ethereum hasn't really performed in the way that we know it traditionally does. So that's something new that we saw this cycle, where other layer ones, layer twos were having a lot more success than Ethereum, which is one of the big boys. Um, Obviously, all the way through, I felt like, this wasn't over. um, I felt pretty confident that the cycle would continue to push on. I continue to feel that, this was a great opportunity to get involved. So we talked about whether or not it was over, whether or not you were still early. I think even if you get involved in cryptocurrency at the end of this year, if you get involved next year, you're still going to be early, because such a small percentage of the global population have adopted this particular asset class. Um, but don't wait too long, don't tempt fate, right? But personally, I think we are still early. Not financial advice, as always. By the end of February, we saw some more not so great news. Um, the Bybit hack. Again, Ethereum got a heavy lick in there. Bybit being hacked by a major player, a significant portion of their Ethereum reserves being siphoned off, which obviously impacted Ethereum, obviously impacted the overall market. By March, we were again talking about Donald Trump. We were talking about them pulling the strings. We were talking about manipulation. We were talking about a presidential pump and dump, because we know that all markets are manipulated, right? And we know for a long time that a lot of senators, a lot of people in the US political space have been accused over time for allegedly manipulating markets, insider trading, and benefiting from those insider information. But for the first time, we saw the US president seemingly being at the forefront of that, seemingly being the person pulling those strings. And, we had to wonder if it was deliberate, if it was accidental, if he was just, trying his best and impacting the markets in a particular way. But I think all in all, um, for a while we were talking about how the markets are being impacted, not just crypto but all equity markets, the stock market, the Dow Jones, all of these will be impacted by these decisions being taken by the president and his team. And it felt like it was a constant battle between the bears and the bulls to see the direction of the market, to see where the market sentiment would go, and whether or not, like I said, the cycle had come to a close. And we saw a lot of doom and gloom prophecies by some of the biggest names in the crypto space in terms of influencers. But we talked about it, and I believed, and you guys believe, that's why you're still here, that it wasn't over. We went back to, because we saw all the manipulation that was happening in the market, we went back to talking about GameStop and what the whole GameStop debacle, and how GameStop was impacting the markets again by investing in Bitcoin as a treasury asset for their business. We looked at the potential opportunities for GameStop there. We looked at the potential synergies between GameStop's consistent positioning in terms of freedom in the financial market, and what Bitcoin represented. So we did talk about that significantly. And then we got into the dangerous part of the market, well, of this particular cycle, the tariffs. President Trump decided to issue some retaliatory tariffs to America's both allies and enemies, who he felt were being unfair to America in the way that they treated with trade. And so began a long battle between not just US and its allies, like Canada, which continues on, which has influenced the most recently elected Prime Minister of Canada. But we saw a significant buildup in trade tensions between America and China. We delved into that in terms of who will be the big winners, who will be the big losers, what does this mean for the US public and the global public as a wider consideration. Us here in the Caribbean, we know when America sneezes, we catch a cold. So we discussed all the potential opportunities and fallouts coming from that trade war. And, President Trump has not been one to be known to back down from a fight. He, whatever you think about him, bro is a very, very strong personality type. And in addition, meanwhile, he's fighting with Canada, meanwhile, he's fighting with China, he's picking a fight with the Federal Reserve chairman himself, Mr. Jerome Powell. Talked a little bit about him, his influence on markets, where we're going to see him move next, and how the growing tensions between him as the Fed chair and the president of the United States is going to impact the markets. And then we went on to talk about yet another bureaucrat in the US political financial management system. We talked a bit about the appointment of Mr. Paul Atkins as the new chairman of the SEC, what that means for the market, what that means for crypto, who he is. And since then, I would say we have seen a lot more positive growth in the crypto space, and we are seeing ourselves building back from 70,000 at one point a few weeks ago to on our way back to 100K. And it's been an interesting ride. The people who continue to be successful, to continue to make money in the crypto space, let nobody ever make the mistake and say that these people have made their money easy. It takes a whole lot of cojones to hold down the fort in this space, to be patient, to be humble, to not sell during these crazy times, to not be influenced by all the manipulation, not to be influenced by all the trauma and volatility that's happening in the market. So if you are here, you still have even one Satoshi to your name, I want to congratulate you, sir, you, ma'am, you, miss, because you understand that adoption is inevitable. So we have 14 more episodes for this season. It's 14 more weeks. I think this is where the meat of the cycle is going to take place. This is where the rubber hits the road. Do we get to 200K? Do we get to 150K? That's left to be seen. Do we crash all the way back down to 60 something? I doubt it, but you never know. But I think now is as good a time as any to start paying attention, to start learning. It costs you nothing to get the information because, like Steven just put in the chat, and I say every single week, adoption is inevitable, right? So do what you had to do to get the information that you had to get to have the kind of success and have the kind of build the kind of future for your family that you want to see and you want to experience. We're going to be here every Thursday talking about it, chopping it up. Of course, we do lime dry out as always. Henny Daya. So I'm really, really excited for what comes next. I had a really interesting and exciting meeting today. So we have some exciting things coming you guys' way. And yeah, it's gonna be a good bull run. It's gonna be a good bull run. But that's it for me. Illuminati, as always, thanks for checking in. OUT, Steve-O, bless my brother. Guys, be safe. Remember, drink, drive, degen responsibly. Right? Illuminati. Be blessed.